Hi guys, tonight we are live for the Any Mum Can podcast, and I have a really lovely guest with me today, and her name is Hema Patel, and we met at a Mindvalley event actually pre-COVID last year, and she's here with us. I invited her to talk to us about mindset and her speciality. When I was really intrigued when she told me the things she's done, what she's experienced in her life, and the rapid transformation therapy that she's done. She's done some really amazing things. So this is Hema. So yes, as I said, she's a mindset coach who delivers rapid transformational therapy, which I'm sure she will explain in more detail. And we've had a previous person on that also delivered this therapy too. Her thing is actually transforming procrastinators and procrasti-learners. I love that term, and is changing these people into taking fearless action, and who basically get shit done. Say it a bit lower, and really making magic happen, as I've written on the notes for our live today. So welcome, Hema. I'm really pleased to have you with us today and honoured that you accepted my invitation.
I'm so glad to be here because I think the event that we met at was probably one of the last in-person events that I attended. So we managed to do that in 2020, meet in real life, which is fantastic. And yes, I am a mindset coach. I trained as a coach in 2008, which seems like a lifetime ago. And I added rapid transformational therapy to my toolkit last year. And there was a specific reason for that, because I spent over a decade as a career coach, helping people with health conditions and disabilities get back into employment, working with them to build their confidence, get them interview ready, make that transition into the world of work and stay in work. And it got to a point where there would be certain clients that, regardless of the way that the advice was given, the support that was given, weren't taking action. And it really made me think, what else can I do? What else can I learn? And so many of the clients I worked with back then had depression and anxiety, stress, sleeping problems, financial worries. And so for me, when I left that industry, I was like, I want to go deeper. I want to find the thing that makes those people tick, that gets to the root cause of their issues and helps them move forward. And at first I thought, okay, maybe I'll become like a mental health first aid instructor. I really wanted to kind of help people. But then I stumbled upon Marissa Peer and rapid transformational therapy. And I was like, this is it. This is the thing that makes a difference. This is the thing that gets like under all of the layers, all of, the limiting beliefs, the self-doubts, and really helps people to change their lives. And so rather than just informing people about mental health, if I'd have become a mental health first aid instructor, to me, it was all about, I can do something that actually solves this, that fixes this, that makes meaningful change. So that's how I got into RTT. And I have not looked back since, because now with my own clients, I use RTT and coaching to get the results that they're looking for.
Wow. And I know how powerful it is firsthand. My sister's trained in it. I've got other friends that are doing it. And I also had undergone therapy using the same tools. And so I can vouch for how powerful it really is. But it sounds, something that you said just really, really hit a chord with me, that and chimed with me, because in the fitness world where I've spent the last 10 12 years and then moved into coaching, and that's the same reason why I moved into coaching, because actually when I met people and gave them programs, told them what they needed to eat, and I was like, why is it they find it so difficult? Some people would just fly and others wouldn't. And that's really fundamentally where I came at a point that actually some people really need deeper help. And they're the women I wanted to reach. And I'm expanding into health and wellness, doing it wider, and actually helping women in work more so, really. So, but it's the same thing. I really resonated. It's like, why is it we can't take action for ourselves when everybody's telling us what to do? I mean, we're in an information age. Internet is telling us exactly all the things we need to do. I mean, there is confusion because there's a whole lot of misinformation out there too. But even when you are given something to follow, some people really, really struggle. So it is phenomenal. What kind of results are you finding you get when people are really dealing with this deeper level issues that they're experiencing?
So the work that I do, picking up on the point that you made, the reason that some people struggle, so you can know what to do, you can know how to do it, and then still not do it. And that's because we self-sabotage. And the reason that we self-sabotage is that we have programming from when we were children that in certain situations, we were put in situations that we were uncomfortable, that made us stressful, where we felt not good enough. And what we did is we brought about actions and behaviors that were self-preservation, that kept us safe. And those same behaviors and actions that kept us safe and that were perfect as self-preservation when we were younger actually manifest in our adult lives as self-sabotage. And so that's where it comes, that, and the way we see that play out in our lives is things like procrastination, playing small, beating ourselves up. And the results that I get with my clients is we get to the root cause of why do they procrastinate? Why do they self-sabotage? What was that thing in their childhood that made them kind of shrink their world and keep them safe and not step out of their comfort zone? And once we get to that root cause and we understand what it is, we can pick it apart, we can look at it, we can process it and understand it and let it go with love, release it with love. And that is when people have that inner peace in their mind, that freedom to then go on and take the action that they know how to do and what to do, but they just haven't been doing it. So the things that I work with people on are helping them get visible, to leap out of their comfort zone, to do the things that are on their to-do list, that have been on their to-do list for ages, but there's been fear. And that could be like fear of failure, fear of success, or fear of being judged. And once we release those fears, let them go with love, or walk towards them, then suddenly they don't have as much power. And that thing, that letter that you haven't written, that job application that you haven't done, that investment in your business that you haven't made, suddenly becomes possible because you're not holding yourself back. You're not getting in your own way.
Okay, and then what just to play a little devil's advocate, how is it that some people can do this work, but what if they really don't believe, they're really cynical? Can they still reach those places within themselves even when they are coming from a place of, nah, this is not going to work for me, and even when they go down into that kind of deep state, they're resisting? What would you say if there was somebody like that just is like, no, I just can't do that sort of thing, it's not for me?
Brilliant question, and I love it. And it's because rapid transformational therapy, it's a form of hypnotherapy combined with NLP. So some of the stuff that we have, when we kind of think, oh, I'm cynical, I don't believe in this, I don't want to do that, that's our conscious mind talking. And rapid transformational therapy bypasses the conscious mind and goes into the subconscious. So if we think of it like an iceberg, our conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg, the top like 5 to 15%. And then the subconscious mind is the rest, the 80 to 95%. and it's the subconscious. So our thoughts affect our feelings, and our feelings affect our actions, and our actions affect our outcomes. So when we go back into the thoughts that sit within the block of that iceberg, that's when we can change all of this stuff. So it's like, yeah, we kind of we bypass the conscious mind.
Yeah.
And yeah,
But even
and that's why
when
it's
you're
so
in the
different.
even in the hypnosis state, you know, if they're resisting, you know, you get some people like, no, you can still work through that.
Yeah. And so the main kind of way that we access these memories is by accessing scenes from our childhood. And if we don't get scenes from our childhood, then what we do is we go to the feeling, because there are feelings and emotions stored in different parts of our body that we don't even realize, that we suppress. We suppress with all manner of things, whether it's TV, with food, with other substances. We suppress emotions, but they're held and they're stored until we face them and release them. So yeah, if someone's subconscious mind is like not playing and doesn't want to access the childhood scenes, we go to the feelings, because yeah, the feelings will speak, the emotions will speak. They will tell the story.
Wow. And how does that make magic happen? Like with them taking action, and explain that.
Yeah, that's part of my strap line is, yeah, transforming procrastinators into fearless action takers who get stuff done and make magic happen. And the magic element is really, really important. So I've been, as well as RTT and coaching, I've been learning a lot more about trauma. And so one of the things that I came across, there was a lot of information I came across, and the mathematician in me was like, I need to break this down. I need a formula. I need to make it really easy to understand. And so my, yeah, the way that I broke it down was your brain plus either shame, guilt, or blame equals pain. Pain plus forgiveness leads to peace. And when we go from that foundation of peace and we add passion and purpose, is when we get to our power, our zone of genius. And when we're operating from our zone of genius, that's when the magic happens. So if
Yeah.
you take yourself to, I don't know, whether it's a gig that you go to and you hear, you know, musicians and artists performing, and they are in their zone of genius. They're doing what they came on this planet to do. And when you watch them, when you listen to them, in front of your eyes, you see magic happen. And that magic is within each of us. And it's up to each of us to explore our gifts. And the thing that I find is, as a society, we are taught to have skills and knowledge and capabilities. And more we're learning about passion and purpose. And we can build that passion and purpose and get results. But if we do that without the foundation of peace, that's when things become shaky. That's when you hear people say things like, oh, yeah, what if I get found out? Like, I think I have imposter syndrome. And so the more we shore up that foundation and put the peace element in, when we build the passion and purpose on top, the magic happens, and we're not worried about that magic disappearing. We're not worried about like the rug being pulled from underneath us.
Creating that solid foundation. Yeah, I like the word you use, peace, actually, because I use that a lot. And I'm doing things, I'm on a journey myself of being in flow and letting life actually choose things for me, and with action. And peace has been a really big thing. It's at the forefront of my mind all the time. How is the piece that you're talking about, is that because of the foundation work you've done, a person can do to then move forward and stepping away from being a procrastinator into an action taker? Is the piece from the knowing that they've got the foundations there?
That's a really, really powerful question. And if I think to my own journey, it requires the unpeeling and unlearning of a lot of layers to get to that piece, because that piece requires a lot of forgiveness, forgiving ourselves for the things that we haven't done, forgiving ourselves for beating ourselves up for the things that we haven't done, and also forgiving others. And forgiveness is much easier said than done, but forgiveness is necessary to get to that piece. And that piece, the way it kind of feels is that you can be fully engaged in the moment. You can be fully present in the moment. You're not ruminating on your past. You're not sort of anxious and worried about the future. You're just there. And when you have that feeling of just being able to savor the deliciousness of everything that's unfolding in that moment, it's something else.
Yeah, and it's life worth living, right? It's really grasping life by its hands, and it's hard to believe that actually there was a time in my life that all I did was think about yesterday and think about tomorrow. And it's interesting that actually you just think that's really normal, and it might be actually really quite normal if we go on numbers of people that do live like that. But who's to say the volume of people that live like that means it's the right way? Because really, it's actually killing us. It's killing our society. Health and mental health and health, it's deteriorating it. It's affecting people's level of anxiety, probably taking us down into burnout, fatigue, chronic fatigue syndrome, and things like that. A whole host of other things, heart-related disease, and all those health scary things that we talk about, and dare I say even cancer, because of the level of inflammation in the body, in probably the wrong parts of the body. Inflammation is good for some things. When you've bashed your hand or any kind of cut and bruise, we need inflammation to heal. The body responds to do those things. But when we are highly stressed, and not even from just a stressful job, but just our thoughts that are ruminating, as you said, take us to those places. And we've got higher levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, that's just higher than it needs to be across the whole day. You need it in the morning, helps us wake. But as the day progresses, we can naturally see it tail off. But we do see a lot more people with high levels of stress and that high level of cortisol, which on top of that, actually, I'll add, when you've got high levels of stress, that cortisol for women is competing, because we've got something called HDL, which is the good cholesterol. And that is what good cholesterol is what's needed to produce progesterone and estrogen. Now, if you've got a high level of stress in your life, cortisol needs HDL, and so do these female hormones. Now, if you don't manage your stress, cortisol will take over and use that HDL to produce cortisol, and therefore you can have an imbalance and have less production of estrogen and progesterone. So there's even more reason when you're a female, if you're perimenopause or menopausal, that it's very, very important to start getting your stress levels in check, find tools to bring it down so that you can get some change in your hormone balances too. So there's a whole host of, it's action taking, but it's a whole level of health that we that I'd like to really advocate too, off the back of the things you're talking about. Is there anything you would add, like in your experience of things related to the mental health side of things?
Well, there's 2 points that I want to follow up on. The first is a quote. The past is history, the future's a mystery. Today is a gift, and that's why it's called the present. And let me just get some water. And one quote that I came across recently is that the opposite of depression isn't happiness, it's purpose. And we can kind of sometimes fall into the trap of chasing happiness and doing things that we think will make us happy in the moment rather than what's going to make us happy overall. And when I talk about taking action, it's about taking aligned action, fearless, aligned action. And it's fearless because it's out of your comfort zone, and aligned because it's aligned to your purpose. And I think sort of what we were talking about before, sometimes in life we can be on this production line of, school, university, corporate job, this, that, and the other. And it's about just pausing and looking at, what is it that will fill me with joy? What is it that my heart and soul desires? And yeah. And my kind of, in terms of stress, there's a little acronym, and for people who know me, they know I love an acronym because I love to be able to just remember things. And the acronym that I use for daily practice is playing the game of life. So practicing gratitude, affirmations, meditation, and exercise. And so that is the whole kind of mind, body, soul connection. Gratitude first thing in the morning, last thing at night, as much as you can throughout the day, because we know that, we get what we focus on. So if we're looking at all the things that we have that abundant mindset. With affirmations, like a really simple and effective one is, I love and accept myself exactly as I am. Making peace with everything about you. I love and accept myself exactly as I am. And with meditation, there's so many brilliant guided meditations out there on the market. And I know that I used to be like, oh, I don't know how to meditate. I don't know if I'm doing it right. Is this even working? And then since I started receiving RTT, because as we learn RTT as well as delivering it, we receive it. And having RTT audios, which are just like guided meditations. So I listen to one of those every morning. And then sometimes, if I want a little top up, I'll listen to something else as well. And then, as you very well know, exercise, we've got to get our bodies moving, because it's about moving all of the energies. And those things can help us reduce stress. So playing the game of life, gratitude, affirmations, meditation, and exercise.
Yeah, I like it. I love an acronym, and it does help people just remember. So just to reiterate, game, basically, isn't it? And then you're saying adding game of life. So fantastic. I love it. Is there anything key you would like people listening today to be able to take away?
I think for me, it is about facing our fears and realizing that when we sabotage ourselves, it was only outdated patterns that kept us safe in the past. And those patterns served us in the past, but they're no longer helpful in the now. And so using tools like RTT to kind of release all of that and facing fears, like walking towards fears. Because so often in life, we're like, oh my gosh, what's the worst that can happen? And if we flip that question and think, well, what's the best that could happen if I did that? And with with fear of failure, it's about that thing of like, oh, I'm not good enough. And what if it's really about just being? Like the affirmation says, I love and accept myself exactly as I am, just being. And with fear of success, it's about embracing failure and stepping into that leadership role, being a leader of our own lives, creating our lives, co-creating, choosing our path forward. And with the fear of judgment is when we make it about who we serve, that fear of judgment goes away, because then the spotlight isn't on us, it's about how we serve the world, how we bring our gifts and share our gifts with the world.
Yeah, I like, and that I've always come from that kind of place. The more just in this last, I don't know, maybe month, 3 weeks, yeah, about a month actually. I've always been an action taker, and I've chosen more and more, like every day, I take a little more step towards softening. And so I'm interested to hear what your perspective is. When I said this earlier about life choosing for me, so when I've ever thought of this before, I'm like, that's like, sounds like, I'm not doing anything. Like I'm being lazy and I'm just going to wait for it all to come to me. So I'm not doing it. I'm not seeing it like that, but I'm seeing opportunity or things that come in my world, and I'll choose what jumps out at me and then act on it. So that's how I'm seeing life choosing for me, rather than I become highly stressed and just continuously action taking. So that's, I'm a person that just always really takes action, but sometimes those actions in previous times, my younger life, and even in when my children were a bit younger, that I would do just go into action and not always think about my actions that I'm taking. So I'm much more composed and softer and just embracing life. You talked about this, I don't know if you use the words creating space, but that's what I've been doing, creating space so that I can feel aligned and that I can see what life is possibly bringing to me, and I'm responding. If my automatic answer is I don't want to do that, I will do the opposite, because I'm trying not to just do what I like, but I'm trying to come out of my comfort zone and let life choose for me and see myself going with the flow as opposed to being resistant. So if I can see resistance, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, I must do it then. If it aligns, if I feel it aligns somehow, even if it's somewhat tenuous, and it's just an experiment to see, really, because you know what? Life is fun and you get to do these things, and nothing is I don't see things as a failure. Maybe I might have done before, but I just think, well, I've got nothing to really lose but learn, and something new would happen. It's like when they say you can't create anything new doing the same stuff. And if I'm always going to pick the same thing because I'm like, I know what I like and I know what I dislike. So if I want to have an adventure and create different possibility, I've got to say yes to some of the things I would automatically say no to. So what are your thoughts on that kind of thinking?
Like, you hit the nail on the head with like the word respond, because so often in life we react to the triggers, we react to the situations around us, and it's about choosing our response. And that whole thing of like everything is happening for you to become and express the highest version of yourself, to live into your highest self. And yeah, that when we think that everything is happening for us, we have an opportunity then to look for the lesson, the blessing, and the silver lining. Because it's there, it's always there. It's whether we choose to see it and find it or not.
Yeah.
And then what you said about sort of taking action and going with the flow. Flow, I've seen before in a diagram, is the intersection of discipline, so the action side, and surrender, so trusting that everything is happening for us. And so it's that blend, it's that balance of being and doing. And there is that misconception about, the law of attraction, that if I just write something out a million times, or if I hum it a million times, or say it to myself, it's just going to come to me. It's about us aligning. So we've still got to take action. We've still got to move in the direction of where we want to go. But like you say, softening the edges and choosing to respond rather than react allows us to attract the right people and opportunities and join the dots. Because sometimes the universe is leaving us breadcrumbs, and we can be waiting for a loaf, but actually we need to just follow the trail of breadcrumbs. And so as long as you're moving in the right direction and you're joining those dots, like you're seeing the link between the breadcrumbs, then that's when, I guess that's when the magic happens. That's when things flow, when the right people just suddenly show up from out of nowhere. An email drops in and you're like, oh my gosh, that's the thing that I've been waiting for. And yeah, but we've got to be open to it. We've got to keep our minds and our hearts as well as our eyes open.
Yeah, beautifully put. Thank you, Hema. And a couple of questions before we finish. She shared some really nice, wonderful insights, the way we work as human beings and our programming. But a little bit about you, just to lighten it a little. So you've talked about briefly how you came to this work, but doing all this work and all the things you've been through in your life, what would you say are your superpowers and why?
See, that's wow. Because I feel like I'm still on this journey of like self-discovery, and I'm like, have I hit my gift? Is that my gift, or is it something else? Or and I would say one of my superpowers is intuition, being able to feel, sense, see things that are just not obvious, and just have that feeling. And it's because I've done so much work. I've received RTT, and for me, it's opened up that self-trust, allowing me to listen to my inner wisdom, my inner guidance. Because, yeah, we can be gaslit by people, we can be gaslit by the media, by society, into not trusting our intuition, into not listening to the inner wisdom. And that voice is always there, but sometimes if we choose not to listen to it, it just gets quieter. It's like, oh, nobody's listening to me. So once we start paying it more attention, we can hear that line becomes clearer, the reception becomes better, and then that can help us like join the dots and follow the breadcrumbs. And so for what has really helped me is I was the kind of person that I didn't like being photographed, wouldn't go on video, didn't do Facebook lives. Pre-pandemic, I wouldn't even do video calls with my own family. Like, that's how much I was just like really uncomfortable about being on camera. And in the last 18 months, I've started doing Facebook lives quite regularly, doing these kind of interviews. I started doing spoken word poetry, and I've even done open mics on Instagram and with spoken word. And I had never written a poem since probably GCSE English a long time ago. And so just to have fun and do things that I would never have predicted in a million years that I would be doing, that is the joy of life. That is like, okay, let me, I've met this person and they've introduced me to that person. Okay, I've somehow ended up in this poetry workshop, and then they're doing an open mic, and things just snowball, and it's having fun along the way. That sometimes we can plan and have a plan of action, and other times it's just being open to just the joy, the mystery, the fun, bringing the fun back.
Most definitely. And I know you're having fun from the things we've spoken about, and you really are a really joyful character. And I'm just so glad we aligned and spoke and connected back in February last year. And I remember you telling me, I said, "Oh, what's your Facebook?" Well, I'll find you. Oh, I'm not on Facebook. I think I'm pretty sure. I don't know how you came up on my feed somewhat over 12 months later, and I didn't even recognize you. And we just connected, and you recognized me clearly. But yeah, because you cut your hair off and you look remarkably different. And you were beautiful energy when I met you, but you have definitely got a different dynamic of energy now. And I can wholeheartedly say you feel like a different person than the person I met last year. So, well, thank you, Hema, for joining us this evening. If anybody is interested in connecting with you, how can they find you? And I know you've got something going on next week as well, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm running a 4-day challenge in my Facebook group, which is Reset and Rediscover. So you'll see just there. And yeah, it's all about facing fears, leaping out of your comfort zone, gaining focus and direction, and taking fearless action. And I run those a couple of times a year, so people can just drop into my Facebook group at any time. And yeah, reset and rediscover. And the reason I've called it that is because I like the words, and it's a bit of alliteration. I like that too. And also, like yourself, we have like one of the most common surnames in the whole world. So I was like, there's about like 65 billion Hema Patels on Facebook. So let me do something a bit different.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly, like, I am actually a Patel just by marriage, but yeah. And I forgot when we got married, I was meant to go into I think you're meant to go into that room and you sign the paper. I think at that point I was meant to say, "Oh, by the way, I don't want that surname. I want my old name." And I didn't realize the naivety of a young person getting married. And then now I have it for life. I don't mind. I've had a lot of we've had a lot of these conversations with my husband and the family. I'm like, yeah, I actually love being Patel now. It's more anonymous than my old surname, because then people can dissect right back to where I'm from. So I love a bit of anonymity. That's how.
And it so served me well. Like when I kind of was, dead shy and like was playing small, wanted to be hidden, nobody could find me. So it's like, it served me well.
Yeah, and again, that comes down to perspective again, doesn't it? It's like, what perspective do you want to take from it? I thought being a Patel for quite some time, a lot. I mean, you could just ask any member of this Patel family, like how many jokes I would crack about my surname. And then I just decided it was time to stop being resistant and actually embrace every single facet of the beauty and strength of being part of a united, amazing community. And so and it all went away. I mean, that stupid thing, that ego, or some, all of those things, bravado and ego around a surname, I didn't need to have that. And that some of that is your wisdom, your age, and just choosing where you place your energy. And yeah. And that's just because it's only because I'm married into that, and there's a time and place for laughing about and stuff. It served me well in my 20s, and then it just gets old. So thank you again, Hema, for just having this really nice, joyful, relaxing chat. It's just really lovely to connect with you and just chat with you as a friend, and then also sharing your brilliant superpowers. I really love, you talked about intuition, so I really would love others that are listening to start thinking about what their superpowers are, and if intuition is something that they can tap into, just quietening themselves, because we all have it, and I feel I've had it from a very, very young age, and I've responded on it, and I've never sometimes been able to explain it, but you articulated it exceptionally well. So thank you for that, and thank you for your parting thought too. And I honor you for coming and joining us and speaking out and helping people that are listening tonight. So thanks, Hema.
I appreciate you inviting me, and it's been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for joining us this evening. And we will have another conversation with another amazing guest next week. So take care and see you all soon.